welcome to the Method Matter Show, Beers in the Balcony. I'm your podcast host, Greg Kouwiloyan, the co-founder and director for Method Recruitment Group. This show is purely centered around meeting and interviewing true thought leaders within Melbourne and Australia's respective industries. And today I am very fortunate to be sharing a beer with Kieran Donovan, who is the CFO for Vinomofo. Kieran, how are you, pal? You well?
Thanks, Greg. I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Excellent, mate. Very, very good. Mate, thank you again for joining us. I'm very, very excited to be meeting you and hearing about your journey to date. So thanks for coming, mate. I do appreciate it.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Oh, excellent. And for those of you that don't know who Kieran is, Kieran joined Vinomofo in 2017 and was appointed the CFO in 2020. In this role, he has responsibility for all things finance, compliance, legal, warehousing, logistics, as well as business intelligence and analysis. And prior to that, Kieran was working as a senior finance professional across both UK and Australia at Ticketmaster, Live Nation Entertainment within the Ticket Tech Group. Taking all work things aside, Kieran loves a little bit of wine drinking, which obviously makes him a perfect fit for the Vinomofos. Now, granted, today is it's a podcast show titled Beers in the Balcony. It might be a little bit of a profanity, mate, and I'm sorry for that, mate, but do you have a beer in hand today by any chance?
I do indeed, Greg. I've got a little Brick Lane Sidewinder Hazy Ale. So, very excited. It's a delicious beer. We work with Brick Lane a little bit, and they make great beers. Yeah,
they do, mate. They do. Oh, I feel like I'm a little bit underdressed now. I've got a Stone and Wood. Probably a bit more of a traditionalist when it comes to the ales as such.
Isn't it weird where we're talking about Stone and Wood as now being a traditionalist ale? That's that'd be my top three beers of all time. I reckon the Stone and Wood.
Yeah, it's one that goes down almost too easily, to be honest, mate. But cheers, mate, and thank you so much for coming, mate. I do appreciate it.
Thanks, Greg.
No, you're welcome. And this show, as you mentioned, Kieran, it's all centered around you and your journey today. We tend to focus on all things sort of past, present, and future. And I've got a handful of questions, mate, that I'd kind of love to run past you. And any insights you could share or any wisdom, we would welcome it with open eyes and ears, my friend.
Absolutely, sounds good.
Perfect. Well, we'll launch straight into it, my friends. And we'll obviously focus on the past as a priority as such. So initially, I mean, if you were to rewind the clock and speak to your 18-year-old self, obviously it wasn't that long ago, of course.
Of course.
What advice would you give?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, I would say make the time to exercise to keep yourself healthy. Not to say I've not been a healthy person, but I just think back on 18-year-old me, university. I moved away from country Victoria to go to university, so I was living on campus, and a big focus of mine was keeping up with my mates and the FOMO. Don't miss out on anything. But you think back all those years where we are now, a bit older, the body slows down a little bit. You think, gee, half an hour a day of just exercising, whatever, it's not much, but there were definitely days where you couldn't even find half an hour in my packed university schedule to go for a run. So that'd be the advice. Say, find the time. It's half an hour, mate. You can do this.
And it's so true, mate. It's sometimes easier said than done, isn't it? It's like you're so immersed in social activities or studying, whatever it is. If it was just literally a run or going to the gym for half an hour, just taking that time to both exercise your body and mind. Yes, you make a good point.
Oh, absolutely. I think now where you get a bit older, you get a bit wiser, I hope. But I struggled to name a time where I was up before 8 o'clock when I was at university, and now young child, 6 o'clock's my start day most days. So you go that's 2 hours. Like you could have done so much with at uni if you knew then what you know now.
Yeah. Yeah, and obviously having the little one as well, matey. I'm sure they're keeping you on your toes, and obviously time does not become a luxury anymore.
Time is a scarce resource these days, so you're maximising it where you can. Yep.
That's brilliant, mate. Thank you, mate. Very, very wise words. I couldn't agree more, mate. I'm a big fan of your background. I think I've made that clear on multiple occasions, and your journey today coming from that sort of chartered environment in the Big Four to obviously now at the helm at what is a widely recognized organization. If you were to kind of cherry pick the things that you're probably most proud of to date professionally, does anything sort of come to mind as such?
Yeah, I mean, if I talk about, I'll think about what are the milestones I'm really proud of, but also I'll think about, what is the thing I'm most proud of. The thing I'm most proud of, I mean, it's where I am now. I'm the CFO of Vinomofo. It's a company that I engaged with for a long time. That was actually it was my entry into wine. That's how I discovered wine, was Vinomofo back in the day. When I was in my chartered career, I was at Ernst & Young in audit, mid-20s, and I was curious, but I was overwhelmed. And so I just want to learn more about it. And that's why I went to Vinomofo. They were young, but also it was very, it felt risk-free in terms of, a whole model on the secret deals and black market deals. And, I don't want this to become just a marketing pitch on Vinomofo, but that was the proposition back then for specific reasons where you didn't know what you're buying. And so it sort of felt a bit like you weren't taking a risk as much because you go, if I make a bad choice, that's not really on me. Like that's the retailer has offered me up wine that just wasn't of quality. But what I found was that I really enjoyed the wine, and I enjoyed when I would turn up, I'd try it and go, actually, I do like that. And so, it demystified the wine a little bit because I wasn't having to do the decision making. But that's why I liked Vinomofo. But to now be the CFO of a company that I've been engaging with for 10 years as a customer, one, to be the CFO is that's where you want to be getting to in my profession. But to be the CFO of a company that I really admire and respect and engage with, that's something I'm super proud of. In terms of the milestones to get there, though, I've got so many stepping stones that got me here. I mean, my time at Ernst & Young, it's hard. Like when people talk about the slog, like it is hard, but it's hard because it teaches you things. And I learned so much, and I'm really glad I stuck it out for the 6 years I did there, because I wouldn't be where I am without doing the time then. You leapfrog people who leave at that early stage because they're just not getting exposed to some of the more complex issues. You're not getting exposed to boards, which I was at the time. But then I was also glad I left EY and stepped out of my comfort zone to move overseas. I lived in London for 2 years where I worked at Ticketek and Live Nation. And you're going back to square one. You have no network. You're slogging out for jobs you could do. You're just not being considered for because you've got no London experience, which is total bullshit.
Yes, it is, mate. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is.
Not to put a bad word against your profession, but I really found it troubling with recruiters over there because it was all around where's your London experience. But once you had it, absolutely, and you can prove you could do the job, and I landed on my feet by getting the job at Live Nation initially, and then Ticketmaster, which same ultimate parent company, but such an amazing company. And that was my first real step into industry where it showed me you could work for what are a big corporate. They're US listed. You can work for a big corporate company, but they still have a sense of soul, or they still have an identity. Like they're not just a soulless corporate that just makes money, that they still do something. And that was my first exposure going, actually, industry companies within industry can stand for something other than just profit. And then, obviously, getting the Vinomofo job. That it was my first job coming back from Australia, but I'd been in a role for not that long, and I took a bit of a punt when I saw the Vinomofo role had come up. Took a bit of a punt, going, look, it's probably not the best career move to sort of have this very short job on my CV, but I think this is a good long-term move for me. So I made the decision to apply for it, got offered the job, moved along, and it's now, as you can see, it's worked out really well for me. I'd say, that's my best career move I've made to date, was to take that role. And full disclosure, I did take a pay cut to move, so it wasn't without risk. I just bought a house, but I just had that sense of going, this is the right thing for me personally. Yeah, and it was.
Yeah, that's good to hear, mate. I have to agree with you on a number of points there, to be honest with you. I think that, especially getting back to the consideration of very, very good, solid people coming out of a chartered environment. I know that a lot of good people do get overlooked for work and good roles as well. And it's very, very frustrating. And having those ongoing conversations and trying to reassure individuals that this is what they need to do to kind of build their visibility and to obviously keep moving forward, especially when you're a job seeker, and especially in the UK as well, where it can be highly transactional, and so a lot of recruiters move on to one and you become another soulless individual in their eyes. It's very demotivating and very hard to kind of pick yourself up again, mate. So I think having that tenacity and having that perseverance, mate, has obviously served you remarkably well.
Absolutely, agree. Yep.
Yeah. And mate, I have to admit, like I said, in terms of the milestones, absolutely. And sometimes taking that sacrifice on salary to get the opportunity of your dreams, or what is definitely now of your dreams now. Sometimes it's a risk, it's a leap of faith, because you don't know what's going to happen in the near future. But in your case, it was a leap of faith worth taking, mate. So yeah, great news, mate. Very, very good stuff. The leadership piece, I'd love to unpack with you in a bit more detail. Obviously, we've got a lot of listeners who either A, are currently in leadership roles, who are looking to really focus on their sort of C-suite journey. And there'll be some individuals that are maybe budding leaders who are looking to embark on that initial leadership journey. Do you have any advice, either what's worked for you, or maybe any particular words that would possibly help someone break into that sort of leadership space?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is very much my personal opinion, which is formed on my journey, but I think it starts with just saying yes, like just say yes to things that, I guess, as you were doing my introduction, there's just so many aspects of my role. Say you're the CFO, but you're responsible for risk and compliance and warehousing and business intelligence. And yeah, like often when I describe what's my day to day, my friends will say, "Why is that your responsibility? Like, why do you have to deal with that?" But I guess my response there is, well, someone has to do it. So who do you think is a better fit to do it? And I think it comes down to that you make your own destiny. That I could have easily said no to doing a lot of those things, and it wouldn't have been an unreasonable response. But I said yes, and it means that I'm being a little bit uncomfortable in my role. I'm willing to take things on which I don't really know, but I'm going to learn about it. But which it increases your profile within the company. All of a sudden, you become the go-to person for that. You're the subject matter expert on that thing that no one else in the business knows about, because they're not responsible for it, or they're not accountable for it. But you also acquire pretty valuable business knowledge that other people in the business, they just don't have. Which that starts becoming, that's what a senior leader is. Like you are the go-to person who's accountable. The buck stops with you, and I think you can mold yourself into that. So for me, I was the CFO long before I was appointed the CFO, because I was being held accountable for all these things in the business that no one else had an accountability for, and so that kind of falls out of going, well, I guess you're now the CFO because you're responsible for all these things. So that would be my overarching advice. It's just you can't say yes to everything, but I think have an open mind and be willing to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, mate, to be honest. And I think the comfort zone piece is something that I know that I personally grappled with early in the days when we were looking to set up the business. I was like, well, actually, I've never run a recruitment firm before. Basically, we were 3 of us in a tiny little startup office, and now there's nearly 40 of us. And I think comfort zone is something that I was kind of quite challenged with. It was like, well, you're going to be tasked with doing things that A, you have no idea about. B, you've got to do well, so you better learn about it quite quickly, because there's obviously people's welfare at stake. And C, grasp the challenge. And that was something that I have to admit that it's kind of very easy to, I suppose, realize that you've got to do it. It's another thing of actually doing it and taking that leap. No, so that's, mate, I think you make some very, very, very good points there, matey. Thanks for that, mate. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah. Your organisation has come leaps and bounds, and the brand visibility, the the black market offerings that you do, I'm a big fan of, by the way, and I suggest anybody who's listening to give it a go, because you'll be pleasantly surprised with what ends up on your doorstep. And but I'd love to understand a bit more about, I suppose, how your organization has helped shape your industry, whether it's more economic, technological, social, whatever it may be.
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, I'll caveat there. I'm incredibly biased in this, so you can be hearing a very one-sided argument here that suits my purposes. But look, I truly believe we've been a force for good in the industry. Back when we launched, no one was doing the online retailing of wine, or no one was doing it well anyway. There were people, the big players were probably dabbling in it, but no one was doing it at scale. It was predominantly, cellar doors, which still very good options. So if you want to support your favorite producer, get to the cellar door, buy direct, because all money goes to them. So I will caveat with that. Mm-hmm. Or you go to a bricks and mortar bottle shop, which really we're talking about, the big players. Like that's where most people were going, rather than the boutiques. But what it also meant on the flip side, so not only did customers not have a great choice, or they didn't have a multitude of options to buy from, but it also meant for wineries, often they'll go through a distributor who take a clip of the ticket there, in order for them to access a national distribution network, that you go through the distributor, or you're dealing with one of the major players where they're pretty price sensitive, and because they have such a dominant position, it's not always a great outcome for some wineries that if they won't come to the party, you don't get stocked, you have no national audience, and so how do you sell? That's where I think we stepped in, where there's this whole suite of, so I don't know what the numbers are up to now, but at some stage I'm pretty sure there was something like 2,000 different wineries, individual wine brands in Australia. I could be wildly wrong on that one, but it's highly fragmented, and you kind of think that there's all these people in that middle market where they're not big enough to be in the majors, but they're too big to just be a pure boutique where you go, look, I'm only going to make 100 cases of wine a year. I know it'll sell out. That's all I need. Mm-hmm. You've got this whole middle market, I'll call it, of producers who just, without a national way to get to the national presence, they're kind of stuck in no man's land. I think that's where we played a really valuable role, where all of a sudden we were the way to access a national market for people who are too small for the major players to say, look, if you've got 100 cases of wine that you want to sell, we can sell it. If you've got 10,000 cases of wine you want to sell, we can probably sell that too. Like, you just tell us what it is you need. We'll agree on a price, we'll agree on how we market it, but we've got a national audience, we can sell to that. And that's where I think we've shaped the industry, where all of a sudden we've become an avenue for people locked out of the more, I guess, the older, the older ways of doing business, which has sort of forced some of the bigger players to rethink how they do their business, because now they know that essentially there is another option there if they don't want to deal with the winery.
Yeah, I love that, mate. Vinomofo, forced to be reckoned with. I love that.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
And so the other thing I was going to say is, because we deal directly with the producers, we cut out that middleman distributor thing. So it's essentially like whatever the price we agree with the winery on, they're getting all that money. So there is, that's the other part where we are, starting to just cut people out who don't offer huge value in the chain.
Well, it could be better margins, or at least more money for the suppliers, effectively, and the manufacturers. But at the same time, from a customer experience perspective, offering a wider variety, from the smaller players up to the mid-sized boutiques, which I think is great. And that's one thing I've really enjoyed about shopping with you guys, is the fact that there's just so much more to go at, things I haven't necessarily tried before.
Yeah,
I think it's a nice caveat.
Yeah, I think so, and that's probably something I didn't really touch on, but we also would like to think, we offer a way for you to discover things in an easier manner. So, because we also import a heap of wine, so hopefully we're also an easy avenue for you to discover that new wine variety that you just have never tried before, because you probably either you've never seen it in your local bottle shop, or you don't walk down that aisle when you go to that bottle shop, so you'll never discover it. So again, it's hopefully we're adding to that discovery piece of people getting a bit curious about saying, well, I love my Shiraz, I love my Cab Sav, but what are some other varietals that I might like as well?
Yeah,
And I'm hoping that that's where we're sort of playing a part in that.
absolutely. I'm a creature of habits. I'll always go pretty much to the same shelf and get the same bottle because, you know, I know what I like and I'm too scared to try anything else in case I don't like it. And it's time and money and maybe an experience wasted.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh, brilliant, mate. And I suppose a similar question just around technology. I mean, the past couple of years have been a basket case for a lot of people. And I know that we obviously us, as well as every other organization, technology has had to accelerate the way people have worked previously and maybe collaborated and communicated. But I'd love to understand how maybe technology has maybe shaped yourself, maybe the Vinomofo broader team and the finance team in the past couple of years.
Yeah, it's been huge. I put simply, it's been huge. So, yeah, as an e-com retailer, technology, it defines us. That without tech, we have no business. So, yeah, it's massive. We've seen a huge number of bricks and mortar stores move online, not just in our space, but I guess broadly. Over the last 2 years with COVID, and so it just means we can't rest on our haunches and let them catch up because we have a running start with being online. We were well positioned when COVID hit and things moved online. We were already there, so we knew how to do it. So what we've been doing is we've been working flat out for actually even before COVID hit, but for a few years now to move our technology to being the next generation. So yeah, at the moment, a lot of our technology is older tech, I'd call it. So it's what we call a monolithic architecture. We've written every single line of code that supports that website. No one does that anymore, but we've been working now to shift to what we call headless e-commerce, which is kind of next gen one, where it's literally it's a modular way of doing things, where it's just you say, I need tech to do this specific task. You license it, you plug it in to your broader one. You're not relying on any one bit of tech because everything just works with one another. And not a lot of people are doing that. We'd be one of the first people in Australia doing it. It is next gen, but because we're one of the first movers in that area, it's not without pain to get there. And that's why it's taken us a few years to kind of work out how to do it. But look, if we think when we believe we can get there, if we can, it's going to give us a huge competitive advantage because it means we're just simply not wedded to any one provider that if we find it doesn't meet our needs, it doesn't support something, we can change it out and move something else in. So that's for us. Like that is really what's defining us, is that essentially trying to move to that next gen e-commerce technology, which will keep us ahead of the pack, we believe.
Perfect. And obviously having that competitive advantage is going to be huge, to be completely honest. And hopefully maintaining what you've currently built and having maybe, like say, a stronger user experience, both from the front end and the back ends, can only aid the organization its growth moving forward.
Oh, absolutely. And I think also with so many people moving online, customers, they demand a certain experience. Like you can't be offering a subpar experience. And even I know, like you go into certain retailers like last Friday, Black Friday, you can see the retailers who haven't invested in their tech. And it's a frustrating experience. You go, why don't you do this thing that I know I can do on every other e-com website except for yours? A personal experience where I was checking out, I had a gift card for one particular retailer, but then I had to pay part on gift card, part on credit card. It took me to a whole other website to go and put it through, and went it through, and then the thing crashed, and now my gift card balance has nothing. The order didn't go through. And it's just one of those ones where you go, it's just like, it shouldn't be such a bad experience, because from your own experience of other retailers or other stores, how good the experience can be. So when you have a bad one, it's so bad because you go, it shouldn't be like that. And that really is our challenge. Like, we don't want to be in the naughty corner of offering that bad experience, because customers, they won't forgive you for it. They go, that was a really bad experience, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Yes, I have to admit, customers have long memories when it comes to those sort of things. And you're absolutely right. One severely bad experience, which losing your gift card balance on a gift card you haven't even utilized yet,
Correct.
would make me not want to go back, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's so true. I had a very similar situation with a very large travel company, and I put my booked some flights and basically booked the hotel through this like single package travel company, who I would not be naming. And basically, as the payment was going through, they basically took my payment, but then it timed out, and then they didn't give my booking, but the money had already come out from my credit card. So when I spoke to them, they were asking for an itinerary number. I was like, actually, you haven't given me the booking, but I'm going to show you that it's actually come out from my balance. They were like, that's impossible. It's like, I'm looking at it right now. So by the time I had to go in there and send them the print screens and so forth, I was tearing whatever hair I've got left firmly off my scalp. And you're right, you won't be using that organization ever again.
Yeah, and I think it speaks to that you've been informed by other experiences where you go, I know it shouldn't work like that. So when it doesn't work like that, you go, you just haven't, whatever it is, like you haven't invested in your tech, you don't care, like whatever it is, it's not a priority. But I think it's more than just the experience. It's then you go extrapolate out to say this is not a priority for your business. And yeah, again, bring it back to us, like as an e-com retailer, yeah, if our user interface doesn't work, if it's painful, it's whatever, like we won't have a business. We don't have customers because people just don't want to go through that when they know other people are offering better experiences or painless experiences.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Kieran, thank you. You've given me so much. You've given us and our community so much. I'm very, very thankful for your time. Now, give us some hot off the press news around Vinomofo, and probably it's your most favoured wine of choice, mate. What is your go-to, mate? Because you've got thousands at your disposal, and I know that you get some good testers that come through the office, mate. Is there one that we should be keeping an eye out for?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the perils of this job is that me as an employee, the pricing we get, the pricing is very good for us. Like already we've got great pricing, and I am biased in that, but already our pricing is amazing. But for staff, it's essentially cost plus 10%, which is it's incredibly tempting at a value level. But then also we can see as employees, we can see what every black market deal is. So then when they come in and you see what it actually is, you go, oh wow, like we've got that. So my most recent one, I'm not sure if we have it on the website or not. We might have just restocked it, but we have one from Wheels Domain over in Margaret River, a Cabernet blend. This is a premium wine, like their marquee wine. And I think they usually do it like $100 a bottle. We had it about, I think 40, 45 a bottle. Like it's just sensational. And
nice.
Yeah, and you go like, wow, like, and for me, that's the hard part is like, when do you say no to things? Because like I've got a decent wine cellar now, just because I just find it so hard to say no. One I will say that we've got in stock at the moment, which is, look, it's not cheap, but we've got some 2006 Jeff Merrill. It's called the Jeff Merrill Hentley, but aged McLaren Vale, I think it's Shiraz, but it is just amazing. So that only came in last week. It's not cheap, but if you've got the money for it, it's it is just an amazing wine.
Well, mate, I know what I'm doing after this. All right, so stay poised for a message from me, being like, "So remind me what it was."
Yeah, absolutely. But it's that is a peril. Like it's all good. Like it's all just good stuff. Yeah.
It goes back to what we were saying earlier about that daily exercise routine that we need to be embedding. It's like it's a fine balance between the two, is it not?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like I've been on orders for the last year for my wife to stop buying wine, but yeah.
Kieran, thank you so much, mate. I honestly, I can't thank you enough. Very insightful, and I appreciate the insights into past, present, and obviously what lies ahead for you at Vinomofo as well, and for us as the customers. So, mate, thank you for everything. I appreciate it.
That's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, Greg. It was a lot of fun.